want to say welcome to the Disciple Making Church podcast. We're so glad you're joining us. And my name is Ken Adams, and I'm the director of Impact Ministries, and also get to be the pastor at Crossroads Church in Newnan. And so the purpose of our podcast is just to have conversations every month, really about all things disciple making. And we just believe that Jesus started the church to be a movement of multiplying disciples. That's really the mission that Jesus gave us 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago, to go and make disciples of all nations. And we believe that those disciples ought to be fully trained disciples that look like their teacher. And so really excited about today, having a couple of great guests with me. This is Dominic, Jacquez. This is Slade, McLean. They're part of our church here. And Dominic has been a part of our middle school ministry, so works a lot with students. And then Slade has been in our ministry, also been an intern in our ministry, and is obviously, or is also a part of, he's in school. And so he's a student at Anderson University, right? And so we're gonna have a great conversation today about how disciple making and student ministry and even college ministry all kind of goes together. And so, but I do want to just ask you, if you will, if you enjoy the podcast, please like it and then share it with others, because as you do that, more people hear about it, more people know about it. And we just believe there's a real need out there for more people to learn and understand more about the disciple making church. So good to have you guys, man.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Very good, very good. So I'm gonna let you just kind of begin by just sort of introducing yourself. Tell all those that are watching a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump into a little bit about y'all's relationship. So Dominic, start us off. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, he's kind of already said that. My name is Dominic Jacquez. Excited to be here, and I kind of work with our middle school students here at Crossroads, and I've been doing that for about 5 years now. And it's just been an awesome journey, and just enjoying what that looks like in a disciple-making environment, and really working towards that in our student world and our youth ministry. And so I basically have done that. I've helped out with worship and kind of looking towards in the future of church planning. And so this is something that is really close to my heart in disciple making. And so, honored to be a part of it.
And you're also one of our trainers for Impact Ministries.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So you've done some trips and done some training in other places, right?
Yeah. I've been to Zambia, Africa. And so been able to do that, been a part of other seminars here in the States. And so, it's been awesome being a part of the Impact team.
Very cool. Good. Slade, introduce yourself, man. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so like Ken said, I'm a student at Anderson University. I just finished my freshman year there, and I'm going there to study Christian studies and business management. I'm a double major, and the intent is that I'm going into ministry after this. So God called me kind of summer before to the beginning of my senior year of high school into ministry. And so that's where I'm going with this. But Dom and I, we've known each other for a few years now. And so that Zambia trip that he's talking about was my second international trip and first impact trip. So, it was a blessing to be a part of that, blessing to be here as well. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Very good. So let's kind of rewind the tape a little bit. And Dominic, I'll let you start from your perspective. So kind of take us back to when you and Slade first met. Yeah. How did that go from a relational connection to a discipleship? Because you guys did discipleship together, didn't you?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Kind of just tell us the story from your perspective, and then we'll let Slade give you the other side of it. Right?
Yeah, so rewinding the tape. So I had the opportunity to lead students to Montana, and so I was leading about, 15 or so students, and we were on our way. And I just was feeling in my heart, going into the trip, that God was up to something on that trip already. And throughout that trip, I just saw something authentic from Slade's life, and really it just caused me to just, hey, do you want to do something together? Do you want me to, be a part of your life in a way that's not just being a part of mission trips, but really your individual life? And so I went up to him, I said, hey, can I disciple you? I just see something in your life that inspired me. And so I offered the opportunity to disciple him. And so we did that for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. And of course he said yes. And from that point on, it's been, an amazing thing. We've learned a lot together. The incredible times, of course, as we've been talking about Zambia. Mm-hmm. He went with us on that trip, that team, he helped me lead 30 pastors in Zambia for our Disciple Making Church seminar. Did such a great job, and so it's been an awesome honor to be with him.
Now, when you guys were in a discipleship relationship, were you doing our impact curriculum here?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that. We would meet on Wednesdays, 4:30. Typically, he would show up at 5. But that's just how we did things.
He rolls,
because 30 minutes late is on time. But we did that every Wednesday for 2 years.
Good.
So yeah.
And
really good.
Did you guys just do it one-on-one, or did you have other guys a part of that?
We did it one-on-one. Yeah, so we worked through book 1 all the way to book 4, and just through that process, I encouraged him to take those next steps of leadership and really become an untrained seeker to a fully trained disciple.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Yeah. That's good. That's good. We'll talk more about that in a minute. How about your perspective? How did you feel him approaching you and y'all connecting and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I kind of knew Dominic, but I really knew his wife she had served in the middle school ministry that I was a part of. So really all I knew was that this random guy from Iowa was trying to invite me to disciple me. And I was like, what in the world does that mean, And so, as time went on, the relationship built. I think Dominic and I, especially having that one-on-one time, went from more of a mentorship now, I think, into the 6 or so years that we've known each other, more of a friendship. We get to do ministry, we get to do life together, and it's really cool to see kind of this unique perspective of Dominic growing as a husband and as a father now, semi-recently. And so, it's just cool to be a part of it and be on this side of it where, you think of mentoring and pouring into people as you disciple them, but now it's more of a friendship and it's more of just like a brother in Christ. Right. So, I think it's cool to just see how those relationships develop like that.
And I want to add something too with that. I mean, one thing that I noticed in our lives, our paths would cross so much. And I think with disciple making, I think God points out people in your life that when they cross, it's just like, why does he keep coming up? And why do I keep seeing him? And so I really felt like I thought Montana trip and even just getting back, that this was something that we were supposed to do together. So I think it's important. So
very good.
Yeah.
So you spent about a year together, year and a half maybe, in an intentional format, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So just tell me kind of from your perspective, like what did that look like? What do you feel like were some of the things that maybe God did in your life during that time? Again, you'll have it from 2 different perspectives here. So Slade, maybe we'll start from you. What do you, looking back at it now, what do you say, this is how God used that in my life? These are the things that God used to sort of form who I am, and even this. Why do you think this is an important thing for other student ministries to do?
Yeah, I think this like between middle, high school, and college are some of the most formative years of your life, and I think having somebody in there at that particular season pouring into you, it makes a world of difference. I kind of mentioned it, but I got called into the ministry, and my original path was to be an airline pilot. It wasn't anywhere near ministry. And so I think Dominic and his faithfulness to what God called him to is a lot to credit to that, is because Dominic was pouring into me. Dominic was investing in me, taking that time. And when you have somebody doing that, I'm not saying everybody's going to get called into ministry. And certainly everyone doesn't need to be called into ministry vocationally. But when you have somebody in your life pouring into you like that, it makes a world of difference, because it just gives you that coaching, that guidance, that direction, and that person to rely on that I think, honestly, in today's world, I think loneliness is a big issue. And I think there's a big reason why that happens is because people don't have people intentionally pouring into their lives and giving them their heart. And so, I'm super grateful for Dominic in that sense. So
that's good, man. That's good.
Well, I think we talk a lot about an impact, faithful, available, teachable. And I think that's something that you've shown. And honestly, when I started kind of with impact and working through it myself, going through it, someone training me, I had the opportunity to learn what it looked like. And kind of from that point and that perspective, it kind of got to the point where I thought I was going to disciple people more closer to my age. And that came true a couple of times. But then I found, like I said, on our trip to Montana, felt like God was doing something in our lives. And it was like I used the word authentic. I think that's something that I've seen in your life continuing throughout as we get to know each other even more. But I think one of the main things that I saw is I can pour into someone almost like a Paul to Timothy situation here. I didn't necessarily see Slade going into ministry, but I saw something that God was doing in his life, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to join what God was doing. And so now from that perspective and that point, now I've seen the importance of what it looks like to disciple the next generation. And really the importance of those years, as you mentioned, middle school, high school to young adults, that priority that we have, because they are the church now, as we talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's good, man. Do you have something else?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said something in there that I just think is just pure gold. You said, middle school, high school, and college, some of the most formative years in a person's life. And I so agree with that. And I just think there's just so much importance and value to that comment, because when you think about that, a lot of times student ministries, there is a place for a large crowd, kind of the fun Bible study experience or whatever, but clearly moving people into relationships during those years is, I just think, man, it's one of the most important things for spiritual development and ultimately for just development, right? Life development. So, from a student pastor's perspective, so tell us, because that's true. So, how do we make discipleship how do we make it a big part of what goes on here at Crossroads Church?
Yeah, so I think for so many years, we've focused on the large group gathering and the environment of what that creates. And as you mentioned, it's so much more important in the small group environments. And I think that that's something that we're trying in our middle school and our high school ministries, is really bringing not just a large group environment and the priorities of that, but really the small group of discipleship. And I know we've said this a lot, that relationship is really best through discipleship. And I think that that's something that we have to think about in our students. And I think one of the main things for our students is that we would just show up and be consistent. I think many times our students come and they care that we show up and the consistency. And I know even if they're late, we're on time, and just being there for them and showing up and being in their life and letting them talk to us. And I think that's kind of what it was like for you, of just different things in your family that you shared. And I think what's really cool we discover in these times with our students and even with yourself is, discipleship isn't always clear and clean and all these beautiful things, but really we see real life and real the things that's going on in your life, the messy problems you're going through. I mean, we all have problems, and so I think it's just important that we give the time to those students and show up and be consistent in their lives.
So if somebody sends this to their student pastor and says, "Hey, here, watch this. This is a church that's really committed to discipling their students." So just kind of walk through with everybody. What does that look like? I mean, how does a person that just either maybe they've just moved from children's ministry into student ministry to middle school ministry, or maybe their families just started coming to our church. So when they first come, where do they go? How does that pathway look, if you will?
Yeah. So what's really cool about our church, we're creating an actual next generation impact curriculum, and so we're working through that. But as far as a Wednesday night, that's kind of what our Wednesday night gatherings, as I mentioned, large group and our small group that happens. We would have them come into our gathering. We would invite them to just kind of get connected in a way. And so we have a first-time guest table and really bring them into our ministry. And from that point, they're part of a large group, but the primary focus is really we want to focus on their core and really what they're going through in their life. And that's kind of done through our small group environments. So within our gatherings, we have our worship time, we have a message, but really we focus primarily on our small groups. And so currently what we've done is we've created an environment for small groups every Wednesday that, there's a group of 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade girls and boys that get together, they separate from each other and building that relationship. But what we don't want is just the small group in that kind of sometimes crowd control. What we're trying is a pathway, as you mentioned, into really discipling the next generation. And so we're working on creating impact groups on Wednesday nights as well during those small groups. And so we see them working and taking next steps in their life and their walk with Christ.
Right.
So
if a student shows up on Wednesday night, middle school student comes in, so they're going to be a part of a Bible study, worship experience kind of thing, probably some fun stuff as well.
Right.
And then they'll be a part of a small group.
Right.
And then out of that small group, you're trying to pop discipleship groups, discipleship relationships out of that, right?
Yeah. And I'll say this too, throughout the year, we have what we call our new believers class. And so we help them take those steps into those classes and really get to know them, where they're at, their journey and their walk with Christ. And then from those points, we get them connected to impact groups.
Yeah. I think that's really, really valuable, really helpful because, a lot of times people, they hear about the importance of disciple making, they hear about the importance of discipleship groups and all that, but they're not really sure how do I make it work? How do I implement it? And so, there's not every church is structured the way we are, where you have a Wednesday night format for students and that kind of thing. And then, sometimes it's more Sunday school driven and all that kind of stuff. But the goal is ultimately to get people into a deeper level commitment of a discipleship relationship where they are looking at the life of Christ together, growing in the character and the conduct of Christ, and then ultimately that they turn around and reproduce it and share it with somebody else. And now, as a middle schooler, that might be further down the road before they're actually able to disciple somebody else, but it could still happen, right?
Right. And I think one thing too with our leaders that serve within middle school, and I would even use the word high school, is it's so important as a commitment. And I think that that's something that our students need to see in our lives. I talk about consistency. I think there's also a commitment level that we ask all of our leaders that step in to serve, say, hey, be a part of their life for a year. But really what we want to see is continual growth throughout each grade. And so it would go from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. So it would be kind of reproducing themselves each year and walking through that time with the students in that.
That's cool. Very good. All right. So Slade, let's kind of flip the switch here a little bit and talk a little bit more about, you've had a little bit of time now on a college campus. And so you're seeing discipleship, spiritual growth and all that through a little bit of a different lens now, right? And so what do you see in terms of, needs that college students have, as well as have you experienced any discipleship yet in a college setting, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think college is especially got through my freshman year, and freshman year is it's one of those weird transitions. And so I think what you see with college students though is that, and I think with a lot of people, they're just busy. And I think the difference between maybe college students and adults is that there's less of a rhythm there. You might not find out about something going on until the day of. And so you have people who are tired from studying, tired from if they play a sport or involved in club, whatever they're doing. People are so busy. And so it takes intentionality, and it also takes understanding and grace. I was a part of this ministry at school, BCM, and my leader would tell us, he said, if you have to choose between large and small group, come to small group. And the reason why is because those relationships are key. I think they're very vital in those college years because a lot of people, they stay in their dorms or they just don't know where to go and they feel kind of alone. And so I think the small group environment allows people to have like-minded individuals that are iron sharpens iron, and they're growing and building together. And he would tell us this too. He'd say, even if you can just come for 5 minutes, just pop in and say hi. And it's not that, the goal, so to speak, of making people in like Christ, it's not that it's not being met. It's just being met in a different way. Why? Because you want people to show up, because you want people to know that you love them, you care for them, and you're there for them. And I think when you're creative about it too, I mean, if they can't come, we would have BCM on Thursday nights. They can't come.
And BCM is
Baptist Collegiate Ministries. Yeah. So we'd have that on Thursday nights, and if they can't come, you ask them to breakfast or lunch or something. I mean, you just find ways to meet people where they're at. And I think that's a big need. That's a big, that's the way to do it, I think, is meet people where they're at, because there's a lot of people that they just need somebody there. And, they can't necessarily do it in their schedule the way that things are, so you make it work. And I think making it work, that's how it's done. I think if you're not trying to make it work, you have to have that heart to do it. And if you don't, it's not going to happen. So I'd say, honestly, first for people wanting to disciple, you got to have the heart for it. I mean, you have to be persistent, because it's not going to be easy. So the beautiful thing about Impact is that it's not just 4 books. I mean, there's different curriculums, there's different things that we're doing. And one of them is Impact Athletes. And so, we had a guy at our church here that connected me with the head baseball coach at Anderson. And so I actually got with the baseball team, and I wanted to take them through competing with Impact. And that didn't work out. They weren't able, they weren't all willing to do it. And so I took a different approach, and I said, I'm just going to show up, and I'm going to help in any way I can. And so, we'd be out there at 6 a.m. on Friday mornings in 40-degree weather flipping tires. And so if that's what you got to do to make connections, that's what you got to do. And so it's having that heart to serve people and love people and meet them where they're at.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah,
man. Very good. Yeah. So hopefully this gives you a little good idea of how some student ministry, how disciple making works in student ministry, how it works on a college campus, and then also too, I hope you just see the fact that that this is a great example of how somebody poured into Dominic. Dominic turned around, poured it into Slade, and now Slade is praying and looking for opportunities to pour into other people, and so literally. What Jesus came to do 2,000 years ago is still the mission for today. It still works today. Yeah. We just have to work the plan, right? The plan will work if we work the plan. And so, I was just talking to somebody this week about. I was meeting with a group of elders, and I was just talking to them about how, the important thing about what we're discussing today is that Jesus came to make a movement of multiplying disciples. And that process is timeless.
Right.
So that process works as good today as it did 2,000 years ago. And so it's really and truly, it is not really about a particular curriculum. Yeah. It's not really about a particular ministry. It is about doing ministry the way Jesus did ministry. Right. And so when we can get to the point where we get kind of get past all of the non-essentials, and we can just get back to just helping people. You said it, helping untrained seekers become fully trained disciples of Christ.
That's right.
Then we will see lives changed. Mm-hmm. We will see ministries grow. Ultimately, we can see the world reached, not that everybody will accept Christ.
And I would add that too, as we talk about it. I mean, we've seen it in Zambia, and we're seeing it throughout the rest of the world, that it's not just a timeless thing, it's transferable and it's transcendent. And I think that those are things that we see even in our context here in youth ministry, that it's not someone at the age of 12, 14, whatever it might be. It happens if you're intentional. It happens if you're strategic in teaching. And I don't think anyone at that age is too young to be discipled. I think that Jesus showed us clearly with his disciples that they were just ready. They stepped in and said, here I am, open-minded, and they were ready to learn something from the life of Jesus because they were with him in those times, in those years with him.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
And I wanted to say too, one big thing that has been emphasized, I think, in the Next Gen ministry is that students aren't the future of the church. They are the church. Yeah. And that's the mindset that we have to have, because when you start thinking, honestly, students as lesser than, as you're missing the mark. We've got to see students as the church, because the reality is this: if you're not discipling students, someone is. And a lot of times it's the world. Yeah. And the way that we see the world going, that's the last place that we want them to turn.
Right.
And that's often the first place they do turn, sadly. And so it is our job to see them not as people who one day will lead the church, one day will be a part of the church. No, they are the church. Because I think we have a lot of churches. They don't see it that way. And that's why you drive down the street and you see churches that are, it's sad, they're dying out. And they're literally, people are dying off because they're not bringing new people in. And so when you have this next generation mindset of pouring into them, not as futures leaders of the church, but as the church, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, that's great, man. So I did want to, you mentioned this, and I did want to come back to this before we wrap up, and that is just you guys spent a week together in Zambia teaching the people of Zambia and leaders and pastors there what it means to be a disciple-making church. What was your takeaway, man? What would you say, this is the thing that hit me through my time there that might just be helpful for people to hear?
As silly as this is, I would say I was nervous going into what that would look like and really teaching my first disciple making church seminar by myself. And no credit to me, all credit to the Lord, but truly I could do it. And I believe that's really the heart we have to have, and the posture is we can do this. And if we follow the example of Jesus, and I think in my time in Zambia with Slade, it was such a cool experience for me because I felt like there was an opportunity that I was still discipling him, and he was taking it in, and we were working through it, and he was also teaching me. And I think that that's something that's so important. We should never stop learning as leaders and as disciple-making leaders. We should always be willing to be teachable in what we do. So that's probably one of my main takeaways.
Did you have a takeaway?
Yeah, so I think it's cool. I think, honestly, every mission trip I've been a part of, I think I get more out of it than what I can bring to the table. And so for that Montana trip, I think that connection was made with Dominic. But for this Zambia trip, I think I learned that what you do is very important, but who you do it with is key. And so getting to go with Dominic, man, I think it was tiring and it was exhausting at points, but we had so much fun together, and just getting to serve together and meet those pastors together and lead them. And there was even one point where a pastor had a question, and Dominic
Put Slade on the spot.
He said, "Hey, that's a good question." And he kind of paused and he goes, "Slade, what do you think?" And I was like, "Man, come on." What do I know? But I think that's instilling leadership in people.
That's good.
So, I think who you do it with is so important.
Yeah, that's great, man. Very good. Well, guys, thank y'all for joining me, man. I think it's been really helpful and encouraging just to hear how discipleship works, man, and disciple making really does work, and we just want to help see the church do more and more of that. And so just want to remind you that if you have questions that you want to send to Dominic or to Slade, either one, just go to impactdisciples.com. You can email us through that, and you can connect with us. And so we obviously really try to do as much as we can to help equip churches, train churches, resource churches for disciple making. And so we do a disciple making church seminar. We do it both online and in person. We also have a disciple making pastor training that we do. We have a disciple making leader training that we do. And so if you want to know more about those things, here's what it'll do is it will really help you figure out how to turn your church from a non-disciple making church to a disciple making church, and you will see God change lives, and you will see the church grow, and people will become more like Christ as a result of that. So feel free to contact us, get in touch with us, let us know how we can help you, and you can also find out more about our resources that way as well. So again, thank you for joining us, and hope this has been helpful to you. Share it with some other people, and we will see you again next month.